again, friends, and you are my friends, and welcome to a Wednesday night's Talking Town Live. It's 8 o'clock on Wednesday, the 4th of December. We're here to discuss, sadly, Ipswich Town getting beaten at home last night, 1-0 to Crystal Palace. What are your thoughts, your feelings? Obviously, we're removed from the game. If you want to see what our immediate thoughts were, our post-game reaction is live on the platform. Go and hunt that out where you should so get your videos from. It's on the live tab of our platform. That's the instant reaction. This is our more measured. What is it? More measured thoughts? I don't know. It's the start of the show. We'll see where the next half an hour or so takes us. But we need your thoughts. We need your feelings. We need your opinions. We need all of that wonderful stuff in our live chat or in our comments section. If you're watching on Catch Up, FTA comment for the algorithm. But we will really try and shape the show around what you want to talk about, who you want to talk about, and how you want to talk about it. And of course, there is a link. So should you so wish to, whether you're AD Croucher, Colin Plum, Peter Dowling, Josh Russell, and many others coming into our live chat, wherever you are in the world, whatever your circumstances, be that microphone or not. Well, no, wait. Webcam or not, you definitely need a microphone because it ain't going to work without a microphone. That's one thing we definitely need is a microphone. Whether you got a webcam or not, hit the link, come on the show, have your say on last night's game. We are live again Friday night, 8 p.m. for our match preview show for Bournemouth, which of course is a Sunday kickoff. But let's get into tonight's show and really discuss what happened last night. But before we do, don't forget we are partnered with Match Bingo. Play Match Bingo, win cash prizes, over 18s only, be gamble aware. Download the app wherever you normally download your applications. £2 a bingo card. And I know one of our viewers, Sean, had a great time last year with it. Or if that's not your thing, you can of course support the crucial life-saving work of the East Anglian Air Ambulance by playing their weekly lottery. Just £1 a ticket for a chance to win over one of 18 weekly prizes ranging from £50 to £1,000, aka I'm going to start calling that the Cobblestand Car Park Slush Fund, because that's how much you're going to need for 2 weeks and for 2 games in a week, ladies and gentlemen. £15 it cost me last night. Jeez. But anyway, the Anglian Air Ambulance Lottery, over 18s only, be gamble aware. Joining me tonight is the one, the only Matthew Phillips. You need to pay that lottery, Matt, purely to win the prizes to pay for the car park these days. I
was going to ask you, did you pay 15 quid? You clearly did.
Well, as a disabled fan with, limited ability to walk far, where else am I going to go? Where else am I going to park my car?
You don't get a concession with the blue badge or nothing?
Which is disgusting in my opinion. Absolutely disgusting.
It's right piss taking it. I mean, if we get relegated and we're playing, I don't know, Oxford on the first day of the season or something, are they keeping 15 quid parking fee?
And they close the gates 15 minutes, hold people back until 15 minutes after the game. So you can't even get in the motor having lost 1-0 and literally get out of the car park. Don't start me because I'm...
The argument that Ipswich Borough Council make is just ludicrous, isn't it? Because they're referencing big cities. This is what you pay in Arsenal, Tottenham, in excess of 30.
You mean London? You mean London?
London. And then you're talking Villa, Birmingham. Then you're talking the Manchester clubs. It's Ipswich. I'll send to nowhere. East Anglia.
If we had London's tube network, I'd be all on board.
Yeah, exactly. I mean? Yeah. More options to because
the train station's not too far, but it's far enough for me. I couldn't walk that, even particularly with a heavy bag of equipment. Normally, last night, admittedly, the lights I didn't have, but
yeah,
if you've got a big bag of equipment, lights, microphones, cameras, etc., as I do, as you know, I do.
It's not like Greater Anglia's the greatest. Oh, it's getting nationalised now. Re-nationalised, but it's not like it's the greatest service in the world, is it? I mean, I had to drive to the Man United game, so I would have had to have swallowed 15 quid because the lines were down because of the gusts of wind or Storm Bert or whatever. But
it's just going to force people out into the residential areas, which will then probably turn into a permit only, which you'll have to pay for the permit. I would have thought. Oh, look, more money. It's disgusting. It really is. There's a few double yellows that you could park on with the blue badge, but that's only 3 hours, and obviously I need a little bit longer with the reaction normally afterwards.
Yeah, so the consensus is ridiculous. You thawed out anyway. You looked cold in the car last night.
I've thawed out now. I'm sat here in front of 2 green screen lights. I'm absolutely roasting. The heating's been on all day.
I'm all right. And you got home okay? Because you had the light on. It was worrying times. Could have got a flat battery.
Well, my battery has been temperamental because I got a flat battery at Colchester in the pre-season friendly. Yeah, I had to.
Was I there?
Car. Yeah, you were. Before I caught up with you.
You drove off?
No, before I left the radio on, listening with the engine off, and then it went flat. So I had to, once I finally got it on that day, I had to keep it running for half an hour. I had 10 minutes to kick off, just to keep it running long enough that it might give me a charge.
I tell you did have a flat battery last night. Oh, beloved football club.
Yeah, let's get into it. Let's get into it. Obviously, you sat at home, comfort your living room, feet up, pot noodle on the go, probably in your onesie. Surely an ITFC one from the club shop.
I haven't got a onesie. Mention wear onesie, should they? It's ludicrous.
Yeah, love a good onesie, me.
Have you? Chicago Bears one, I imagine.
Oh, I've got all sorts.
Have you?
Yeah.
It's offline. Discuss this another time.
Bears ones, town ones. Anyway, enough about my onesies.
Yeah.
We are talking about last night's performance or lack thereof, Matthew.
Yeah.
How did you see it?
Yeah, very disappointing. It was interesting because Matt Holland said, look, Ipswich played really well at home this season. He said, we've had a bit of a hiccup against Everton, but if we don't play like that, I can see Ipswich doing well tonight. And did we match that? Were we worse than we were against Everton? Arguably we were. We just couldn't break Palace down, could we? We just couldn't break them down properly. I noted that we had 100 more passes in last night's game and didn't score, or even really barely get near the goal other than the Clark header and the Greaves header in the second half. We had 100 more passes than what we had against Man United. United's formation of 3-4-3 let us play, didn't it? And we said in that game we allowed our midfield to get onto the ball, and it allowed Amari to do all his bag of tricks and all that kind of thing. And you see him shoot from distance, he scores on. Palace just didn't allow us to do that last night. We said in the lead-up show, didn't I? Like with Glasner, having seen loads of his games when he was Frankfurt manager, he's a wily old fox, Glasner. That's why they got rid of him, because he don't play spectacular football, but it's functional, and it was enough to come to Portman Road and score on the break.
Yeah,
Mateta to score on the break, and that was enough. And therein lies what I've been thinking about today. Really, look, we're not a bad footballing side. We're good, actually. We're very good. We've got back-to-back promotions. The problem we've got is we're not good enough for the Premier League, and that's probably going to relegate us. I think. Look, we ain't won a home game yet. We're heading towards Christmas. There's a reason for that.
Do you remember back in the League One days, we had that rash of 0-0s? Last night felt a little bit like Palace had lifted the playbook from those days in how to play low block, and just ask you to break. Can you break us down? That's the question. If you're good enough, break us down. And many times in that year, if you remember the rash of 0-0s, we weren't good enough to break teams down, and it felt a little bit like that again last night. You mentioned the passes. We had no creativity. We had no ability to break it down, and that's the formula that teams will probably deploy at Portman Road. Not the big teams. Man United, your top sixes, they're always going to be the aggressor, because that's the expectation. They're a top side, a newly promoted side.
We like that, though, don't we? We like that. We go to Brentford, we score 3 goals. We go toe-to-toe with Manchester United. Then we encounter a Nottingham Forest. Okay, good in the first half, suffocated in the second, and pretty much Palace had our number all last night. I agree with what Sharon's saying there. McKennan's brought, Field of Dreams football to Portman Road. We didn't think we'd be, when we started talking town in 2020, we never thought we'd be talking about Premier League football in 4 years, would we? Less than that.
Doesn't mean you don't criticise when you see stuff that isn't right, though. Doesn't mean you don't say like last night's performance was flat, uninspiring. There was no creativity. There was the front four. Maybe arguably the lap aside, didn't impact the game in any way. In fact, Nathan Broad had probably had the biggest impact of the front four, and he played 20 minutes, if maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less.
True.
Of the front four. Of the front four, I'm talking about, the players that really you've brought in big money, or you're relying on to change games, win games, those type of things. But it was very, and I said to you, I've been saying to you all day, yesterday really felt, Matt, I don't know how it felt across, through the TV. Yeah. It really felt like there was no urgency. It felt like this was a two-legged game where at 85 minutes, instead of thinking, right, we need to get back into this game, it was we could gamble. But then, when we go away from home, we're only a goal down. We're still in the tie. Let's keep it tight at 1-0. I wanted a rasher gamble, a rasher roll of the dice. I wanted that flurry of urgency of, we may not win the game, but we're not going to try and get beat on our own ground. But there was very flat, and none of that. That's what I felt. I don't know how it felt through the TV.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. We've said a lot, haven't we? It doesn't matter what division we've been in. We could say we could still be here 24 hours on, and Ipswich still wouldn't have scored. It did feel like that a little bit last night. And I said just a minute ago, Clark was unlucky. Harry Clark was unlucky with that header at the near post from the corner, I think it was. It was just a reactionary save from Henderson, wasn't it? And then, of course, Greaves nearly atones for the error when he hits the post. And like you say, Broadhead's the one that's nearest to it. He can't just quite steer it in. Look, Al Hamadi, for all his limitations as a Premier League footballer, is still a good player and actually brought on a bit of energy, a bit of fighting spirit that you probably need. Like we say, could he be the one that, even though he's limited against Premier League players, you know, he brings that kind of energy and mindset to be a disruptor and try and get in there and create something. At least, you know, what he lacks in skill level at the very top, he tried to counter with energy, enthusiasm, getting stuck in. He looked much more lively than he did against Man United. But, you know, he shouldn't be in this side. He should be enjoying himself like Cameron Humphreys with a really good loan and scoring goals and coming back to us in the summer. But we're just not in that space at the moment. But yeah, I totally agree with you. It was really... we've got to stop saying these are must-win games. Every time we've said this is a must-win game, we haven't scored, for one thing.
Yeah. Well, you're just putting pressure on the games to come. You know, Sunday obviously on the horizon, and Ali, you know, he came on and he made it unpredictable, which I think in the latter stages of a game you really need. It's that pace, it's that unpredictable. You know, the ball over the top, it relieves pressure, it backs the Palace back line up. You know, 5-10 yards, creates a bit of space in that midfield.
Begs the question. We were both thinking this, and we didn't even have to say it to each other because we both sort of said it at the same time. Why didn't Smodics come on? Because we'd said on the show here, didn't we?
Yeah.
Move Smodics to the bench. He can come on when Delap's knackered. But he didn't come on at all. Now, I obviously saw the show last night. People were saying, was he injured? Did he have a knock? Blah, blah, blah.
On the bench, Matt. If he's injured, why's on the bench for?
Then McKenna should really address that, shouldn't he? Because you're setting yourself up for...
Well, he should be asked it first and foremost, shouldn't he?
Yes. You're setting
that
yourself
would be my first question yesterday if I was asking in the press conference post-game.
Come on.
Why no Sammy in the last stages of the game?
Pissing about, asking about why Morsey wasn't wearing the captain's armband. That was a question got floated in the press conference, I say. But the actual question fans want an answer to is, why didn't Smodics come on to try and help us get a point or win the game? Seemed to be redundant. It wasn't there, which I find baffling. But then McKenna should be, or his media team should say to him, look, explain why he was on the bench or didn't come on, because it opens up this kind of debate. Because we're all sitting here thinking last season's championship goal scorer, top scorer, don't come on to try and get Ipswich a point or get us back on level terms and go on and win it. And that just opens up McKenna to criticism, I think. Because you've always said if you're fit enough to be on the bench, then you're fit enough to get some time on the grass, surely.
Yeah, well, you would have thought so, particularly with non-injured players out of the squad. All right, then they're not attacking players, but if you can't play them anyway, what's the difference between having a centre half, for example, on the bench than an attacker you're never going to bring on? And you're right. I was sat there in 88 minutes. And I was thinking, this game's unpredictable now with Ali on the field. You know, the ball's falling here, the ball's going over the top. Yeah. Why have we got the championship top goal scorer, the guy you've chased for the summer, spent £9 million on, and why is he doing what I'm doing? And just sat watching the game. Like, this doesn't,
I don't get it.
It didn't make any sense to me. It still doesn't. Sat here this evening at 8:15. I still am perplexed. That's why I said earlier about how it felt like a two-legged game where you didn't quite want to gamble enough to go 2-0 down to go away from home 2-0 down because you're more or less out of the tie. It felt like that. Oh well, yeah, we're losing, but the next week's on the horizon with them again. We'll get them away from home, only a goal down. You know, it felt that very much playoff feel, two-legged. Not quite ready to gamble in the first leg.
Is he trying to save fitness, stamina, etc. for Bournemouth? I mean, that's still a few days away, isn't it? Sunday at 2. Don't know. Don't get it. Very odd. Wasn't explained.
No, I know exactly. And as my mother said to me yesterday, you know, there's no point worrying about goal difference. You've got no points on the board. Like, you know,
it's very good point.
Let's get to a position where goal difference matters before you start worrying about goal difference.
These teams that can contain us reduce us to nothing chances. We didn't have any chances in the second half at Forest at the City Ground other than that Tame Clark effort. And then we only had really 2 half chances and then 2 headers that we've just spoken about. Other than
again, they're two teams that play that mid to low block where they're asking you to be the aggressor, you to be the one that breaks them down, play between the lines, which is why I thought Broadhead did really well when he came on, Nathan Broadhead, because he got the ball, he was spinning, it was tight control, he was bringing other players into it, and he was really the one that was, if anything was going to happen yesterday, it was going to come through Nathan Broadhead. And that's what you need to do when you're not being planned for. That's that claim being staked. That's that reminder to the bench if they needed it. what I can do, how I can do it, and what I can bring to the.
So you'd play him Sunday from the start instead of Clark,
certainly
Jack Clark.
Put himself in that.
What was the feeling in the stadium around Jack Clark's performance? Because he got a lot of the ball. The problem he had, you can't get away from him. Lee Dixon was the co-commentator. Got him over.
Was he? Oh, good. Oh,
Yeah.
good. Oh, good.
Yeah.
That is your punishment for staying at home, Matthew Phillips.
Dower Dixon. He wasn't that dour, to be fair. It must just be England does it to him and Sam Matterface. But he said, look, Clark has lots of good touches. He's got all the skill in the world. He holds on to the ball for too long.
That's what I was going to say.
This was the problem. But then are the Town players not making themselves available for the ball? He's got to have a blue shirt to pass to, not a yellow one. So I mean, was that mid block you're talking about that Palace were very expert at doing it and flooding the midfield a little bit? Were they not giving him the options to pass to? Was that why Hutchinson didn't seem to have any ideas last night, because they weren't getting the space in order to keep the passes flowing? And of course, then we start moving back. And it was very telling to me that Muric had nearly double the amount of touches in the game last night than he did against Manchester United.
Well, first and foremost, maybe if Bournemouth deployed the same sort of tactic, what we need to see from Muric on Saturday or Sunday rather is more bravery. And I say that because the way Palace were pressing, they were very happy to press high onto Kayust and Morsey, stop that ball into them, which allows us to play out as we have done so well over the last 2 years. The ball really was either to Hutchinson or Clark. They were both in a bit of space.
Yeah,
it would be a brave ball. But that was the ball which would allow you to get high up the field into the feet of Clark or Hutchinson and then play away from that. And Palace, from my advantage point in the cobblestone, we're inviting Town to do that. Are you brave enough to do that? And if you are, we'll try and have an answer for it. But we don't think you are brave enough quite yet, Town, to do that. And they weren't. And Muric, had the opportunity but didn't, and then would check it or slow it or then go long. And Clark and Hutchinson both needed that ball earlier. It's a brave ball. Don't get me wrong, it's not without its risks, and it's down and it's down.
You like that in pre-season as well, didn't we? Because we saw that against Shakhtar, albeit Walton was playing those passes, those kind of diagonal passes. You quite like that, didn't you? But yeah, against an elite midfield / defence
when it matters. When the result actually matters, and I don't blame Muric for that. If he doesn't feel it's on, then certainly don't make it. You're the one on the field, and you're the one that's. You've got to make that decision. If it goes wrong, you'll be the one that's
he's already got loads of pelters online from various performances this season. So I mean, maybe that comes back into his head. I don't know. He doesn't want to be the fall guy again, does he?
Well, it's tough, and it's tough because you've got to work out if you can make that pass first and foremost. But it just looked like Palace that's the way Palace wanted you to come out. None of this into Kayust and Morsey that we're so used to. They were very happy pressing Will Hughes. And his midfield counterpart up onto them, creating a box around them too that just allowed that not to happen. Which is why so many times in the first half, particularly, we went long from the goal. Doesn't it?
Someone sent me this today. I think it was online or whatever. But people were talking about maybe bringing, because you had Phillips on the bench last night, didn't you? To bring those, to have Kayust, Morsey and Phillips as a midfield three, which would be, because you said to me, didn't you? It's a bit like Paul Cook, this, isn't it? Plan A ain't working. Here comes plan A again with different people. You floated this about 6 weeks back, didn't you? Could we accommodate a 3-man midfield to try something a little different? And someone sent that to me today saying, what did you think of that? And I was like, oh, well, we've discussed this on Talking Town. I mean, we've got to find something because we're winless at home. We've won one game all season, which suggests to me, as we said at the top, we're not quite good enough in the formation that we've got and the tactics we've got at the moment to consistently put together points. And I know we've drawn a lot of games, but draws ain't going to keep us up. We've already missed an opportunity for back-to-back home wins. That's gone now.
I'll challenge you on that point.
Martin, aren't they?
I'll challenge you on that point. Just say before I do, I'll answer Jack Clark's question. Jack Clark's got all the ability in the world. That doesn't change overnight, despite having a few.
He was all happy with him when he signed. No one said, "Oh, we don't want him." Everyone was really happy with him, weren't they? Yeah. It
just looked occasionally at times like a player that hadn't got a lot of opportunities. So when he was either going to make one himself, or when one came his way, he wasn't going to pass it over. So it looked occasionally when he'd break away. I said last night on the post-game show, he put his Superman cape on, and he was trying to make it happen because obviously he's desperate to impress, desperate to lay that marker about what he can do. When the simple option was a 5-yard pass to the right to Wes Burns, or a check back inside and go back to Kayust and we'll play out the other side. It just looked like he was desperate to try and make something happen, which can happen so many times to superstars. when you've not played in a long time, you want to be the one that makes it happen, to remind everybody just who you are and what you can do.
Yeah, good players in the Football League, and we've illustrated Wes Burns as being one, not really showing it in the Premier League. And again, you could argue that Wes was like that last night, and you could say that about Jack Clark. You sent him down a division to the Championship, fantastic.
Yeah,
but and this just goes back to my point earlier. I just don't think we're good enough, sadly, for the Premier League. We are.
I'll challenge that though. I'll challenge that, because you said that, and perhaps we're not good enough overall in the 38 games when it's all said and done. But up until this time last week, we were waxing lyrical. I was going on podcasts saying we've really grown in recent weeks. We're settling into the Premier League. We're slowly putting the pieces together. We're learning from the naivety, and we're looking like a side that we all thought perhaps coming into the season, or a side that's taken its medicine and is improving. Last night was a bad result. Last night was a bad performance. Doesn't change the fact we've got a fantastic manager. We've got a good group of players.
I agree with that, yeah.
And over the course of 38, I still back us, Matt. I still back us to be good enough to stay in this division.
I hope you're right. I mean, I don't want us to go down. I like being in the Premier League, and I like Town being back in the spotlight, the global spotlight. But it's going to be really difficult, I think. Now it's going to be really difficult. And the games come thick and fast, don't they? Well, we've got another 5 or 6 is it in December? And like we said on the show the other night, was it Newcastle, Arsenal, Chelsea as a free back-to-back, I think. It's going to be really difficult. But we said after the Everton game, when it was a must-win, when we were standing outside the ground, it's new to McKenna this as well. He's come in and had it all his own way in League One, pretty much, even though we don't become second, and in the Championship. Now it's a steep learning curve for him. It's a steep learning curve for you likes of Wes Burns and Jack Clark, and it's a steep learning curve for McKenna to go against someone like Oliver Glasner, who lifted the Europa League with Frankfurt 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Tactically, Palace European honours.
Yeah. Tactically, Palace were so good last night. And but over the course of the season, I still do think we've got enough. We've shown enough in good positive performances. But of course, all you remember is the last result, and it was a bad performance last night. It was bad. We've
only won. I don't want to sound too negative, like I'm wishing us down, because that's not what I'm trying to do at all. But the realism in me is saying we've won one game all season at Tottenham. We've not won a home game yet. That suggests, and Delap's scored half our goals. That suggests to me we're not good enough in a lot of areas.
We have got to get better.
That's through no fault of anyone, really, Omar. It's the fact that we've said before, we're maybe being victims of our own success a little bit, and we're well ahead of the curve that the American ownership had for us when they took over. I'm pretty certain they didn't think we're going to go back-to-back promotions.
No. Nigel Stannard, by the way, Matt, he's been raiding the Christmas cracker jokes. He says that we're going to be the strongest in the Premier League come March, holding 19 teams above us. Nigel, that is a classic dad joke I've ever heard one. Take a bow, son. Take a bow. That's great. Lisa, last night we looked like a relegated side. I
thought we did against Southampton.
Trevor. Sorry, go on.
Sorry, I'm sorry, a bit of lag on the internet there.
That's all right.
I thought that in the game against Southampton, I thought we looked like a relegation team. I mean, look, people have been rolling them over, and we only just scraped a 1-1 draw there, didn't we?
Bad result. Big bad result.
Yeah, it's just it's quite enough, sadly. But that's not to say it won't change. I mean, we said this in the season we did go down in the Premier League under Burley. We were useless in the first half of the season, and then in the second half of the season, around Christmas, we put like 7 wins out of 8 together. And found ourselves in 12. I mean, who knows what might come around the corner once we played everyone once. We did that after Everton as well, but not games to go yet. But it's just looking a bit. It's looking bleak, everybody. I mean, we'd be lying to say that wasn't true. It's looking.
We're going to get better, particularly in the margins. Like corners, free kicks.
The
things that don't cost money. The things that you've got a set piece coach. We've got to get so much better. And I didn't really think we were going to get much last night. I mean, Palace are a big side. They're a physical side in the way they defend from set pieces and whatnot. I didn't fancy us last night to really do anything of any note on those. But overall, I think I grabbed some stats before we went live, and I don't know how accurate they are. There's a quick research. I think it's 2 goals from sort of 52 attempts from set pieces.
Oh, so the multi goal against Southampton was from a corner, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, that doesn't count from a corner. I think that counts as an indirect result of a corner. But I'm not sure. I just literally grabbed these before we went live. I just thought I want to see if there's any stats out there on it. But it's about 4% of our corners result in goals, which that's not brilliant, is it?
No, not by any stretch. I mean, I think the Greaves header actually results from that free kick on the edge of the box, wasn't it? They played it short to Chaplin,
Yeah, it
It looked
does.
like they bugged it up, didn't they? And he puts a
He
nice little
did.
cross there. I had a feeling they were going to play it short to him, but I thought he might lay it off for Taylor to have a thunderbolt from the edge of the D or something because he was over it. Then lucky not to go in. That was very unlucky. But
let's discuss that for a minute. Jack Taylor, love Jack Taylor. Been driving the Jack Taylor bandwagon for a long time.
Yeah.
Why did our best player go off yesterday? I still don't know the answer.
He never completes games, does he, Tuesday? He never completes the game. I don't know why. It's like Calvin Phillips. He's like Delap. They don't seem to do the 90 minutes, do they? Again, that's not asked in the press conference. Seems quite a logical question to ask in a manager when he's in front of you.
Like at the two midfield players, love Sam Morsey, but it would have been if he said to me, "You've got to take one off here, Martin." A goal down at home with Karius playing the way he was playing, it would have been in that moment Sam Morsey, because Karius was receiving the ball, he was turning away, he was beating players, and when you beat a player, you've committed the player. He's out of the he's gone out of the frame. You're onto the back line. You're onto the second wave. You need that with a team that's playing that low to mid block. He was looking to make things tick in that, and then we took him off, and I was confused. I still a bit am.
No idea. You'd have to ask the manager. It's his decision. I mean, look,
that's not a slight on Jack Taylor, by the way, because I thought when he came on, he did reasonably okay, but I just felt in that moment. Was it? Is that one of those subs, Matt, where it's more data driven than it is with your eyes, or what do you think about that?
Well, that's another thing. I don't know if you said that to me. It was in our Discord. People were saying, is he making subs based on the data and the pre? We've said this before about Mateta, haven't we? It does feel like some of them are scripted subs, aren't they? Not made in sort of real time on how the game is panning out. But Delap's going to be given 75 minutes, whatever it might be. I don't know. Morsey's one of these he's almost untouchable, really, isn't he? He very rarely gets subbed. I mean, they were saying on Amazon last night, Guy Mowbray was saying it's only a matter of time before Morsey gets booked here. He had a lot of what they called untidy challenges last night.
Yeah.
That one that Delap did down in front where I'm normally sat was determined by VAR, because they looked at that and it was just determined a untidy challenge. And Morsey was walking a tightrope, and they were saying has he got a family function on Sunday? So he got to play the Bournemouth game because he was getting stuck in, but he didn't get the yellow, thankfully, so he'll be available for Sunday. But yeah, it's a good point. But the local media never address these things. Decisions made in game are never sort of discussed, so we don't know. So then you get us debating it on here. We don't know if we're right or wrong. We just guess it.
A bit frustrated with that. I mean, I wouldn't have taken either off, but if you said to me, "You've got to take one off here," that's who I would have probably chosen in that moment.
Yes, and Q's, he's an established international, and he's a different type of player to Morsey, as we said before. And like you say, he was dropping the shoulder, he was doing little turns, doing a little Cruyff turn in the centre circle. He's got the energy a little bit, and he feels like he's got a goal in him if he was to shoot from distance or something.
O'Shea nearly got a shot on target off, roll back to O'Shea in the edge of the area, and
that was a nasty cut he had on his head. He probably couldn't see that in the stadium. That looked like it was either the stud. It was right in the corner of his hairline. It was either a stud, or having watched loads of mixed martial arts, it looked like he'd got an elbow in there.
So I thought, Broadhead did well, Karius did well. I thought O'Shea played really, really well. I thought he's getting strong. I mean, if he's injured, then I'm amazed, because he's getting better every single week.
I'd liked him to have been stronger in the goal. It seemed like when Mateta scores, it felt like he didn't get back quick enough for me.
Well, we've been having this conversation. Yeah, let's go there, because I am, and you know me, Matt. I'm not a massive Premier League follower, right? I couldn't tell you every single player in the Premier League. Those days of my life have long gone.
You've dedicated your life to the Football League because we've been in it for 20 years.
I have, or the NFL. I could tell you probably the fourth string Cowboys cornerback, but I couldn't tell you who played for my Premier League team, but either. But there's a few players that often catch my eye, and I like to track them, and I think they're good players. And one of them is Mateta at Crystal Palace. I've often thought that is a player I'd like to see at Town. He's a good player, and I saw it firsthand last night for the first time. And my days, he's much better than I thought he was. He's strong, he's aggressive, and he's got some speed on him, Matt. Like that goal, wins the header before O'Shea does in the middle of their half. Then he speeds away from O'Shea. Now you could say, okay, it's O'Shea. But a bit after that, away from a corner, he outruns Omari Hutchinson, who's, he's not slow, is Omari. But Mateta literally sprints past him like Omari is walking. And his finish for the goal is really
It was
good.
a very good finish,
He's
wasn't it?
stronger than Greaves. Does he want it more than Greaves? I don't know. Greaves doesn't do himself a lot of favours with his Martin Lambert style defending. I've got size 15 feet. I've often had that move in my locker on a Sunday morning where I've tripped over my own feet, right? My excuse is they're huge. I can't help it. But it reminded me of me defending. I was like, am I watching a mirror? But Mateta is some player.
Yeah, he's good. He got interviewed after the game. He was a nice guy as well. Because Matty Holland was one of the and Gary Cahill. They were the two guests with the legend that is Jim Rosenthal. Always love seeing Jim Rosenthal back on the TV. Brilliant. But yeah, he came over and got interviewed at the end and went through his goal. He was a really nice lad. But it's not, even though we're pointing fingers, and I was one saying Greaves should have been much stronger in that. He does track Mateta's run very well. It's only until Mateta does the step over, which forces Greaves to put his left foot out, bring it back to his standing right foot, and then he slips because he's got his feet in a tangle from the step over as Mateta accelerates away. And like you say, he's still got a bit of work to do for the finish. Clark doesn't quite get to him in time. I do wonder if Axel had been in the side, whether or not we would have stopped that. Part of me thinks possibly. And O'Shea's just left in no man's land. I mean, he lifts it over Muric, doesn't he? It was a good finish. And basically, that was what's missing from our front line last night, wasn't it? You talk about the front four or whatever. We couldn't create anything like that finish that he scores with last night. That was game. Felt like, did it feel in the stadium game set a match at that point?
No, it did, because we weren't creating anything, and he's made that goal himself, Mateta. He wins the header, turns, and then he's gone. And you know what? Obviously, we'll come to Dom in a minute, and then Colin as well. We're going to get you two guys on, then we're going to close the show after that. But before we go, as I say, Coyotes played well, Broadhead played well. So I don't want people to think this is one big, negative, whatever. We're bringing out praises when praise needs to be brought out. And I thought Harry Clark played well yesterday. I thought he was really good, actually. I know a lot of people went into the game concerned about Clark's defending, particularly against their left winger.
Right. He scores. He scored.
Yeah.
Everyone would be saying he did a great game if he'd scored that header.
He played really well, really well. But what was your thoughts before I bring in Dom on a big talking point, which was obviously Burgess making way for Greaves? Yeah.
Well, it didn't surprise me because I thought that was my prediction that I thought would probably happen. But it's very, Mike was on. I spoke to Mike Brown on text last night after the show was finished. I said, I did agree with a lot of what you were saying, and I feel like Burgess could be hard done by. I mean, it's not, in hindsight, as we look back on it, you think, well, Burgess has played in a game against Leicester where we should have won. He's played in the Man United game. He's played in the game where we've beaten Spurs and he's at the bar himself. He put in some really good performances for someone who I think is quite limited, but he put in some good performances. And then Greaves comes back in and we lose and he falls over. So it's not a great look. And Greaves will know that himself, and McKenna will be thinking it's not a great look to the fans to make that change. And then, the error comes from Jacob, sadly for him. But yeah, I would say Burgess can feel hard done by. But by the same token, Greaves hits the post, right towards the end. And if we'd got a 1-1 and it gone the other side of the post and into the back of the net, then everyone would say, what a masterstroke. Greaves saves us to point it back in the side. So, I mean, it's fine margins, isn't it? It's fine margins.
I felt sorry for Greaves. I thought other than that key moment, and it is a key moment in the game, I thought he did well, actually. I thought he tracks
the Mateta run really well. It's only until he gets done on the step over that Mateta gets away from him. But he should be strong. You want him to be stronger. I know Curtis said that last night. You want him, someone who's 15 million quid, got aspirations to play for England. You do want him to be more stronger in that one-on-one situation. Sadly, he just didn't have Axel in the right back berth to help him out in the box. I do think Axel would have got there. It's such a huge miss, isn't it? But Harry did all right, I think, last night. I think he did all right.
Sadly, it's one we're going to have to cope with because it's going to be a while, I fear. Chris said if we don't pick up at least 4 points from the next 3, we should use the January window to get a head start on being back in the Championship. We've got a Sunderland fan in the chat. Gary says, as a Sunderland fan, I can't understand why not playing Jack Clark. One Premier League game, maybe the odd one off the bench. The lad needs a run to be able to prove himself. Thank you for the comment, Gary. Hit the subscribe button. You're always welcome anytime here. I would say might be seeing you next season, but you look like you could be doing some good things up there.
They should be in the Premier League. Do you know what I mean? They should be in the Premier League, Sunderland. Good club.
Yeah, absolutely. Dominic Dean's gifted 5 Talking Town memberships. Dom,
the ledge.
Thank you ever so much. And in no way, shape, or form are these two things connected. But on the back of those 5 Talking Town memberships, here is Dominic Dean.
Dom of Doom.
Yeah, absolutely. Dominic D's gifted 5 talking. He's on the go slow. Dom, try and sort that out for me, buddy. We'll get you back in if you can.
Dom of Doom. That suggests to me that he might not be the most positive of Town fans. He can join the club.
Yeah, well, this is it. I am positive. I'm able to separate.
Well, this is good, but we don't want people tuning into the show and feeling it's just like, as you called me earlier, a negative Nelly, which I've not heard.
Look, I'm not going to be anything other than real with everybody. Yeah. Last night wasn't good. It was flat and uninspiring. But overall, I think we'll be good enough to stay in the division.
So where do you think? I mean, I know we went through points in December last week, didn't we? So what are you thinking against Bournemouth? Having seen what we saw in the second half of Nottingham Forest and the 90 minutes last night, knowing that Bournemouth went to Wolves and scored 4, albeit 3 pens. So let's not make any challenges in the box, because I don't think the referee's going to be our friend there.
No.
What are you thinking? I mean, are they going to get on the front foot against us? Allow us to play like Man United?
I hope so.
Are they going to suffocate us? I'm not 100% certain. I mean, the fact they scored 4 at Wolves suggests to me they got on the front foot a little bit, but 3 of them were pens. So I didn't see the highlights of that game, so I don't know.
No, I don't, and I'm hoping to speak to a Bournemouth fan before Sunday. Hopefully, he says,
yeah.
if I can get a reply back for someone. Occasionally, when you try and do these meet opposition, Matt, you send messages out, and it's like, I don't know, it's like when you're,
Well, as we've said before, as we've said to each other, and for everyone listening and watching, it's easier for us to get someone like Henry Winter, on the show than it is some other club supporters. Yeah. Go figure.
Yeah. Send a message, did they get it?
Steve Wilson, match of the day, comes back to you within minutes. I'll be on.
It's like applying for a job. You send your CV and you don't hear back. You're like, did they get it? Am I not shortlisted? Do I phone them and say, did you get it? And no, you just don't.
Right. Football media, come back to you immediately. Football fans.
Yeah, right, we'll try again with Dom. Dom, are you there?
Right, I think I've worked it out this time.
Hold on a minute. He's positive, Dom, now.
Just don't. I can't explain a 35-inch widescreen monitor. I need to get this sorted out. But yeah. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on.
See ya.
What do we want to talk about? Well, last night. Well, what can we talk about? Disappointing. And I've just changed it because I don't want it to be doom and gloom. Because let's face it, we're in the Premiership. We've been up 2 seasons on the trot. The move up. Yeah. It was disappointing, if I'm honest. And I did say something on my social media. I did delete it this morning, but I didn't think Palace were particularly good. But I also thought the fact that they weren't good and the fact we lost to them kind of says it all a little bit. And our best midfielders, as you said to Matt and Gov earlier, it was because I can never say his name, and Morsey were our rocks, really. Delap for me is, he's a quality player for what we signed, but he can't do it all on his own. And Jack Clark, I'm not going to scapegoats because Jack Clark's a young player. I just feel it reminds me, I think I said this earlier in the chat, he reminds me a little bit of Amari a few seasons ago. We'd come on, have a little go. And for me, he's not a starter yet. But I don't think we should be going out and looking at players and start picking holes in young players, because first, it's going to affect their confidence. Secondly, these players could potentially be. I mean, look at Amari, look at him a few seasons ago. He wasn't a starter. We weren't starting him, week in, week out. And look at him now. And the most frustrating thing for me last night, and this is going to sound a bit ridiculous, but I'm going to say it anyway, is for a professional player that can't cross the ball, Wes Burns really struggles to put crosses in. I just think he can't seem to lift the ball. I could be wrong. I could be a bit harsh. Don't know what you guys thinking on about,
I mean, it's a good point. I mean, we've questioned this before, even when we was in League One, how good Wes, even though he's got all the acceleration in the world and he could score a goal, Dom, how good is his crossing really? And we've questioned that in League One. We've questioned it in the Championship. Now you've got even less time to be able to set yourself in your mind, think about what you've got to do. It's instinctive and it's reactionary to try and get those balls in. Probably one of the reasons they brought Benny in, but of course now he's not available. So it's full Wes's hand. But I mean, look, Wes has been a great stalwart for the club, hasn't he? I know you're alluding to that as well. And we want to see him do well. But is he good enough in that position at this level? There's question marks on nearly everybody, isn't there, other than Delap?
I'd go further than that and say whether we think he's the best player in that position or not. you've got other options in the front four that you could look to accommodate that perhaps would bring a little bit more to the party. And I'm not talking about Smodics here. I'm talking about maybe you play Sammy centrally, you move Amari to the right, or you play Chaplin centrally, who's looked good in flashes, and you play Amari right. You look at the balance of the four, and it isn't always about what who's that best player on the right. Is it Burns or is it Amari or whatever? It's about what your other three next to them could be and the balance that it brings, and how you could affect it in different ways. And I'm desperate to see Smodics on the field as often as I can, particularly in the central positions where I've not yet seen him, and I'm really, as you struggle to create chances and score goals, Dom, utilise him there.
Yeah, and I just think it's a little, you look at someone like Delap. I mean, God, I have to be honest, there's a few players I didn't rate. And when we looked at players to sign, Hurst was one. This is seasons ago, obviously. And I'm thinking, wow, do we really need someone who can't perform and is not scoring goals? And Delap, I'm like, he's only scored 8 goals, but he scored at Hull and Izzy and a couple of guys at work said he looks a really good, strong player. Well, the evidence is here now. But he, as I said, without repeating myself, he can't do it on his own. And I just think I think I had a conversation earlier on, or was it on Twitter? It's about X or whatever, about Broadhead, and he quite rightly said, he came on last night and he's a little bit frustrating because he does run into dead ends quite a bit. But I just think if you're giving Jack Clarke a go, I think Broadhead, based on last night, let's give him a go against Bournemouth on Sunday and stick him up there. And what have we got to lose?
I get that, Dom. I get that. But then you got Gary, the Sunderland fan, in the chat there saying Clarke needs games. He's seen him more than we have. He needs games. I mean, how's that going to help Jack Clarke in his development?
Just by dropping him.
But just by bringing him out the side. But I do agree. There's an argument to start Broadhead on Sunday.
And that alludes to what I was earlier saying. If you've got Jack Clarke who needs games or a Broadhead on that left-hand side, that would, again, free a Smodics up to be more centrally, over off the bench or for a starter. You can be flexible without saying, Wes Burns is perhaps not playing good enough or whatever. It doesn't have to be sometimes about that individual performance. It can be about what's better for the 3 or the 4 behind, or the 3 behind the lap and whatnot. But Dom, you're a legend. 5 Talking Town memberships. I think have you frozen? Are you still there?
No, I'm still there.
Excellent. And you've got a new webcam as well. So hopefully you'll be joining us again soon.
One thing I was going to say is just you guys are obviously doing a good job. I would just say that I think we let's. It's very hard when we've been in 2 leagues where we've been really sort of like doing so well. And I feel it last night. I just went to bed with the ump because I just thought I really wanted to get something from that game. But it's quite easy to, for want of a better word, slag people off. But I just saw a couple of people saying today, I'm sure it was a joke about getting rid of McKenna. We just got to go with what we've got for now and just hope that Delap doesn't get injured. But we've been it before. I can't see anything to mind, but we had, other strikers injured before, like Hurst and Jackson stood up. And I'm sure, let's sort of like see what happens if Smodic and other players coming in, we've got to stick with it. And let's all buy into the same team and fingers crossed. Let's keep positive.
Dom,
good man. Positive, Dom.
Look after yourself. Yep. He went away and came back. When he went away, was it Doomy?
Dom of Doom. It was Dom of Doom.
And now he's positive.
He went 360. Went back to positive, Dom. So just think about players' ages there, Martin, because you talk about how good Delap's been, and like I said earlier, he's got half our goals already. It's 21. It's only 21. Clarke's actually 24, and Cahusday's 25. So I mean, Clarke's not as young as what people probably think. When you actually think, like, if you compare him to Amari, he's got a few years on him. But it's a vicious circle for Clarke, I think, because you don't put in the performances, and people say bring Broadhead in, and Dom's right. I was thinking that as well. Well, then how's Clarke going to progress if Gary's right from Sunderland is right in saying that he needs time? Usually he's only really had cameos. The problem is he's not really pulled up trees, has he? I mean, if only that shot had gone in against Everton in the first few minutes, which he skied over the bar, I mean, it might be a different story. But who knows? Who knows what Sunday will bring?
This is it, Ryan. Great lad, love the club, but saying not good enough for the Premier League. As in relation to Wes, we've got Chris Boyd says Wes should never have cut his hair. Lost all its left. It's like Samson, isn't he? He's Samson. Cut his hair.
It's all gone pear. It's cut his hair. It's all gone pear. Yeah. Look,
No,
let's
I
keep
thought
on
Stoker
support-
was last night, Matt.
Yeah,
Because
I
he
do.
was he was
I do.
tasked a lot with helping Clark out in defence.
Well, he had.
I said that last night on the Match Reaction show.
Yeah, he had old. What's his face down his throat? No, what was it? Eze.
Yeah.
Plays for England. I mean, bloody hell, wasn't that long ago? Wes was playing for Fleetwood, and here he is. Now here he is, in front of the world playing in the Premier League for us. And I think it's brilliant. I do hope he can come good. Well, I think we're going to have to because we've got lack of options over there. I mean, it's only Amari and him really, because Benny's out unless they can get a right-sided player in January, which then brings us to another topic of conversation, maybe for another evening. But who do you actually attract in when you're sitting bottom of the table, second bottom, third bottom? It's a little bit of a different story when you're sitting in 16th, 15th.
Be plenty of chance to discuss all of that, but we want to close the show shortly. Before I do, I want to get Colin on. Colin, welcome in. What's your thoughts on last night's 1-0 home defeat, my friend?
Hello, hello, Martin. Hello, Matt. Yeah, like everybody else, really, a little bit down after last night. Like it's been said loads of times. Very cold and whatever and everything there last night. Most things seemed to be quite flat and dead last night for me.
Agreed.
And Sunday, I mean, they talk about the conditions. I'm watching the weather tonight. They reckon the conditions for Sunday over the next 3 or 4 days are going to be absolutely horrendous.
Yeah, wet.
Wind and really bad rain and everything. Whether that'll play into our hands maybe a little bit, I don't know. Because Bournemouth, I mean, people have got to really sit up and give Bournemouth the respect they deserve, really. I think just because they have the name AFC Bournemouth or Bournemouth and Boscombe, as I used to know it, people just think, and I have done over the years, I only ever knew them for years and years and years as a third division or fourth division football club. But now, we have to be realistic and respect the fact that they are a really, really good side.
Yeah.
And have been in the Premier League for a few seasons now.
They went down one season, didn't they, Colin? And bounced back under Parker. So it shows you that if you do go down, it's not the end of the world, is it?
No, that's right. And I mean, they came back stronger, if anything. And people have said that about us. And I can't remember who it was. Somebody put a clip up there on the chat a little while ago. I can't remember who it was now. About if we do get relegated, or I think it was if we don't get a certain amount of points at the next 3 games, and I really agree with that. Obviously I'm not agreeing with the fact of going down because obviously you've got to take this to the final hurdle and not over the next 3 or 4 games. But I understood what the person meant, in as much as. If we don't get a certain amount of points over the next few games, do we start planning? That's the one. Thank you. Yeah. Do we start planning for the championship? And do I think that's a little bit premature? Maybe, but I do absolutely get that, Chris. I thought that was a very, very good point, and that's kind of relating really to what we were just saying a minute ago, Matt and Gov, about Bournemouth, because they kind of like went down and come back a bit like that. But like I say, as regards Bournemouth, I think we've got to be a bit careful on Sunday because they're a very, very good footballing side. Like I say, the conditions might maybe help us a little bit, maybe. But we desperately. I mean, I know we said it the other night. I mean, I was hoping for the minimum of 4 points really out of these 2 games this week, but obviously that's not going to happen. No. But Gav, we've got to be looking at getting. I mean, as good a side as they are, we've got to be looking at getting 3 points on Sunday now because we follow it up with Wolves the following Saturday. I mean, I know they're not doing so well tonight. Last time I saw they were 2-0 down to Everton. Southampton are an absolute mess. I mean, they started well tonight, 1-0, But now they're 3-1 down. The last time I heard, with a player sent off.
Everton's 3-0, Colin. Now Everton's 3 up against Wolves.
Yeah, we're 18th now.
Yeah, somebody was saying about that in the chat, but we go up a place. It's ridiculous, isn't it? But yeah,
take it anywhere we can. I was talking about goal difference, clearly.
Yeah.
I did watch a little clip last night, Gov, and I must admit I did agree with what you said about, you know, everything just seems so flat, you know.
Yeah, it did.
Well, I mean, what we got to remember is, I mean, somebody else put that in the chat earlier on about, and I totally agree with that as well. And you looked at the last night and the Leicester game and the Everton game. You know, that's all very well and good, you know, turning up for the Man United game and treating it as a bit of an FA Cup 5th round tie. You know, atmosphere, the side you're playing and whatnot. But my suggestion would be you should be doing that more so against the teams at the bottom. You know, fantastic. You know, turn up, outplay Man United at times, and probably should have won the game. But these games like last night and Leicester and not so much Villa, obviously, but we did have a chance of winning the game. But these, you know, Southampton away, you know, we like Matt alluded to earlier. I mean, we did struggle down there, and we equalised in the last minute. But as far as I'm concerned, I mean, I know nothing's black and white as we speak. But if Southampton survive this, it will be, I think, one of the greatest escapes of all time, because I noticed tonight, I was looking at their stats, you know, they started off against Chelsea in the first quarter, but now 69% possession against Chelsea. It's Chelsea, for God's sake. But then I thought to myself, yeah, but you're 2-1 down, you know. But Russell Martin keeps harping on. But Gov, Russell Martin keeps harping on about, see, you know, he's a one-trick pony for me. I mean, he just plays one way. That's fine, you know. But you know,
they said that could be his downfall. We said it on the show as well, Colin, and you know, more established pundits on Sky all said that could be Southampton's downfall, is that they just played that one way, that passing game. I mean, like you said earlier, Martin, and on the phone to me yesterday, I did feel like McKenna would be a little bit more flexible in his tactics in the Premier League, but he's learning on the job. And it does feel like you said to me last night, is plan A, and then here comes plan A again, which is always my criticism of Paul Cook. So maybe, Colin, we do need to mix up, maybe just, you know, bring Phillips into a free in the midfield or something. Something needs to change, because you're going to keep doing the same thing over, you're going to keep getting the same results. And at the moment, we're sitting in the relegation zone.
I'll tell you what I will say. Obviously, like I said, I watched a little bit of the clips last night, and I listened to Mike, and I must admit, I mean, everybody knows my feelings of Cameron Burgess, and me and Mike, we are very much on the same page as regards that, and I'm going to back him up to the hilt there, because Cameron was very, very unfortunate to get. I don't want to use the word dropped, because I don't like that word. If he was rested last night, I like to use that word. If Cameron was rested last night, I still find that quite harsh. And if I was, whether it'd be good or bad, I don't know, but if I was to be picking that side on Sunday, I'd be having Cameron back, you know, I can assure you. I would certainly, having watched, obviously I was at Forest Saturday, I thought Broadhead played really well when he came on against Forest. Thought he did really well again last night. Broadie would be starting for me Sunday. I think he's looking sharp.
He did look sharp.
And I personally think, Gavin, Matt, I personally think, given a run of games, if he was to stay fit, we know he's a little bit injury prone. Yeah. I personally think the Premier League could suit Nathan Broadhead. I really believe that. He's technically a very, very good footballer.
Yeah,
He's technically as good as Jack Clark. I'm not knocking Jack Clark. Don't get me wrong. I think Jack Clark is an excellent top of the range championship player. He needs to prove it in the Premier League for me.
Very different type of players, aren't they? In the way they
are. I agree with that.
Approach the game. I agree with you. Yeah, Broadhead certainly made a case, and that's all you want as a player on the outside looking in when you get the opportunity is make that case to start. And yeah, Burgess was definitely hard done by to find himself out of the team. I don't know if it was for any other reason than he could have been injured, could have been not. I don't know. I've not seen or heard anything. But from the outside looking in, without that information, I agree with you and I agree with Mike. Very, very, very harsh on him. Colin, I'm going to have to close the show. So I appreciate you coming on to tonight's show. Apologies I wasn't at the statue yesterday, but thank you ever so much. You stay well, all right? Look after yourself.
Yep.
Thank you,
Colin.
The best.
Bye-bye.
We've got Epping Tutor. We are close to getting it right than Southampton are. Wolves are leaking goals. Managerial bounces may help some of the other clubs, but it depends on how long these last. Thank you for your excellent points this evening. Epping Tutor. Nigel Stannard says 11v11 at the end of the day. Is it fitness or tactics? Both or unlucky? Again, thank you for the comment. Thank you for the comments tonight, Nigel. And thank you, Dominic, for your 5 Talking Town memberships. Really appreciate it. If you're one of the new members, welcome. You can become a member of the Discord by hitting the link in the community tab. If it's not there, just leave a comment on this show and say, where's my Discord link, Gov? And I'll make sure you get one. I was going to talk about the debacle outside the cobble stand yesterday, but I ain't got time for it. So I have to do another show.
Get into the ground.
Yeah, just absolute. It's been the same way.
The bag searches.
Yeah. Do you know what they need to do? They need to implement an NFL policy, clear bag policy. That's what they need to implement. If they're going to do it, if you want to bring stuff to the ground, it needs to be in a clear bag. Otherwise, it ain't coming in.
Agreed.
It takes too long. And there's no queue management either. So the Portman Road is an absolute nightmare of people just mass people suddenly appearing out of nowhere and all coming together. Set up a boundary, have stewards on the entry points to from the car park each way you can get to Portman Road and at the end of the road, and just do bag checks and whatnot. At those entry points and then people can walk freely up to the turnstile and in away you go. Because last night it was the worst it's been, but it's been that way, been building that way for a long time.
They bring like a third party in, don't they? External company come in and do it. You stick a high vis on somebody. You know what people are like. Yeah, I mean, why is it any different to when we had full houses last season? They weren't doing these searches.
They're doing it's a full body search and a bag search.
Yeah, why does Premier League football bring that level of security when you've got exactly the same crowd, albeit maybe about 500 more, to a Premier League game?
As somebody said to me in the queue yesterday, you'd have to have a bloody good aim to get anything from up here, which is a fair.
Yeah.
If you had that good of aim, I need you up front.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Before we do go, Mike, I'm not going to touch on this because of the political aspects of it all, when Morsey wearing the captain's armband and what colour it was and all that. I got an email tonight from the club on their newsletter showing Sophie Peskett from the women's team, Cameron Burgess going along to a Rainbow Laces event that the club held, the foundation held, wherever it might be. So I want to give a big shout out to the club for doing that, because I've worked on those campaigns when I was at the FA. They're really good. I think the club do really good things. People concentrate on the negative and all the incident around who's wearing what and who's not wearing that. But, behind the scenes, I think, and they had the lad on at half time at the Man United game speaking about the campaign for being exclusive, equality, diversity and all that kind of thing. I think the club are doing a great job. That gets overlooked when people are doing clickbait stuff on who's wearing what on the captain's armband. But I think Rainbow Laces thing and what Ipswich are doing and the Ipswich groups connected to that campaign, fantastic. Long may it continue. I think the club doing a great job on it.
Okay, excellent. All right, thank you for your comments this evening, Matthew. Thank you to Colin and Dominic, and again, thanks Dominic for the memberships. We're back on Friday 8 p.m. for a match preview where it will be half an hour and half an hour only. I promise you, Matt. I'm so sorry we're overrun by a good double length.
It's typical Talking Town, isn't it? Once we get going.
We do. But it will be half an hour. And don't forget, we are partnered with Stowmarket Osteopaths. Give Freddie a call. He's the governor there. Don't live life in pain. Call 01449613633. I go there myself. Fantastic service. I can't wait to get back there. It really does make me feel better. So hopefully it could help you as well. Give Freddie a call on 01449613633. Stowmarket Osteopaths. But until Friday, we're on Wednesday. Until Friday, this man here is your media mogul. Up in the gov. You've been the wonderful, beautiful audience. Thank you for watching Talking Town, and we'll see you Friday. Bye-bye.
See ya.
God bless.